perform parliamentary duties before Court of Appeals ruling. Also coming up, Ghana condemns military takeover in Guinea Bissau, describing the action as unlawful, dangerous to the democratic governance of that country. Plus, Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education urges members of CTAC to reconsider their strike action. It's News Central, live on TV3. I'm Kemini Amanor. The news starts right now. Now, the majority has requested that Matthew Nyedam be denied entry into the chamber, saying he is no longer a member of parliament after a court order for fresh elections in the Pandai constituency. The minority has, however, rejected that application and the court ruling, accusing the bench of shameful conduct. Christian Yade has more.
Matthew Nyedam was cited in parliament when proceedings began. At the time, it was not clear whether he was defying the court order or Parliament had not been served the court orders. Later in the day, during the commentary on the 2026 budget, he was invited to also contribute from the minority side. But the majority quickly objected to that invitation.
Mr. Speaker, ipso facto, the Honorable Nyedam is no longer a member of this House. He's not. We have received the court orders and receive proof of service. The orders of the court has been duly served on Parliament. It was served yesterday. The Honorable Nyedam is now a persona non grata. I pray that he must even be marched out of the chamber. Never, as leader of this House, did I advocate that Honorable Jechikwesi, having lost a high court case, should be marched out of this chamber. Let me spend a bit of time on Jechikwesi. After the high court ruling, and he filed an appeal and a stay of execution, this House never denied Jechikwesi his right of entry and his right to be heard.
The Speaker of Parliament has indicated to me that I should freeze this particular matter relating to Honorable Matthew Nyedam. And therefore, I'm not going to make any comment on it. I pray that we hold on with the discussion or the commentary on the budget. So, Mr. Speaker will take on this matter when he takes the seat.
The minority leader, Alexander Feomaken, addressed the press and described the ruling of the Tamale High Court as problematic, saying it was reckless and shameful.
The relief sought by the petitioner himself was clear and specific. He requested rerun in those 41 polling stations. Yet, in a development that defies ordinary legal reasoning, the High Court issued an order directing a full rerun of the entire Pandai parliamentary election, covering all 152 polling stations, to be completed within 30 days. The NDC candidates and his supporters were aware of the judgment before the day. For a judge to casually void an entire constituency elections without first ensuring that a complete reasoned judgment was prepared and published is not merely irregular, it is judicial irresponsibility of the highest order.
And then he makes a direct communication that the NPP MPs are ready to be invited for a contempt of court, and that, if possible, they are ready to be jailed.
What kind of kangaroo judicial system we having now in Ghana? We will not mince words. They can conspire to call us one by one for a so-called contempt of court. We are criticizing their shameful conduct. We are not afraid. We are ready to be in Insawam. How can a judge who calls himself a judge sit in court and misconduct himself in such a manner and expect the country to be quiet?
He has declared that Matthew Nyendam remains the lawful elected member of parliament for the Pandai constituency, asking constituents not to be bothered.
To the good, peaceful and hard-working people of Pandai, your votes matter, your voice matter, your MP remains at post.
Let's head to Parliament now and speak to correspondent Christian Yali for a bit more on proceedings in the House. Christian, good afternoon to you. We know Parliament is setting up for proceedings this afternoon, sometime around 2 p.m. What is the mood among the MPs ahead of what could be Speaker Bagbin's ruling?
All right, Kemini, so in actual sense, the House is sitting just around 12, and so currently members of Parliament have begun, trooping into the chamber to begin their business for today. What it means is that there is a possible ruling, by the Speaker today, should he come to preside over this particular matter. And this is not coming as a fresh case. We've had instances in the past, especially that notable one concerning the Asen North MP James Jachikwesin, who filed a case at the Cape Coast High Court, or had a case at the Cape Coast High Court, which case later went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court made that ruling and directed Parliament to expunge his name from records, after which the then Clerk to Parliament, Cyril Linsia, wrote to the Electoral Commission announcing a vacancy, which subsequently yielded in that by-election that took place in Asen, that got James Jachikwesin re-elected. And so yesterday, in the debate or argument by the minority leader, he made the case on the floor that, see, when the case of Jachikwesin came up, after he had even lost the High Court case, he was still allowed to be in the chamber. He was still, given full access to all his entitlement as a member of Parliament until the Supreme Court decided that substantive case and directed Parliament to expunge his name from records and declare his seat vacant as a matter of fact. And so, if anything, this should also be the case. It shouldn't be the case of the majority side that, the Honorable Matthew Nyendam should be disallowed entry into the chamber and be disallowed participatory in the business. But the majority side, on the contrary, holds the view that, see, Kemini, if he claims to have filed for stay of execution, or has filed an appeal, or is appealing the ruling of the Tamale High Court, that alone in itself does not nullify the substantive ruling by the Tamale High Court calling for a rerun of election in the Pandai constituency, because, mind you, Kemini, and as it were, the court has the right, or the court must decide the appeal or decide the stay of execution. Until that is done, there cannot be a contrary directive. And already Parliament has received, the court orders, and notice is thereby served on Parliament, which means that until there is any contrary directive from the court, the House would definitely go ahead to more or less declare the seat vacant. So that is the bigger anticipation today, if the Speaker should make that ruling, because yesterday he wasn't around. The second Deputy Speaker was presiding, and he made that communication that the Speaker himself should do that. And so members of Parliament wait with bated breath to see what direction the Speaker is going to take. Kemini.
Very well, but have you spotted the Pandai MP Matthew Nyendam?
No, not yet. I've not cited him yet around the presence of the House and even in the chamber where I am currently. But one thing that I've heard him say in an interview on some networks is that should the Speaker rule or declare his seat vacant, he is going to obey that and then wait for the appellate processes to conclude, and then we'll see the way forward. But even today, earlier today, he took to his socials to more or less appreciate the kind of support that he has received so far from residents of Pandai. And interestingly, he even mentions some, posts on TikTok. He references them as beautiful and handsome gentlemen and ladies on TikTok for the kind of support that they have given him so far. And he, in that post, makes a case that he is confident of a victory out of all of this. And so he's just calling on the good people of Pandai to keep their fingers crossed and expect that there is going to be victory for them, and he would be their member of parliament at least for the next couple of years.
We'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much, Christian, for the reporting. We'll connect again if new developments emerge from Parliament. Christian Yali joined us from the chamber, where he tells us that the sitting will begin sometime, or should have begun already, at noon, and the MPs are gradually filling up the chamber. Now, this issue has to do with the Pandai seat. Remember that over the course of the week, there was news that the Pandai MP had to stop holding himself out as MP for the constituency. What we know that he's done since that ruling from the Tamale High Court is to appeal the decision after the election petition was ruled in favor of the NDC. Let's stay on this subject now and speak to legal practitioner John Quayson. I appreciate your time this afternoon, John, but we find ourselves at a point where a court has ruled that an MP stop holding himself out as the MP of a particular constituency. He's put in an appeal and says, because there is an appeal, I can't represent my constituents in Parliament, for which reason he was in Parliament yesterday. From the legal point of view, how do you help us unpack this?
Okay, thank you, my sister, and thanks for having me. And good afternoon to your cherished viewers as well. Hello, madam.
Right. I had asked the question, but it would appear you didn't hear me. I'm asking, what does the law say in a situation like this, when a ruling has come out that the MP for Pandai, Matthew Nyedam, not hold himself out as MP? However, because of an appeal, the minority side is arguing that he can still come to Parliament until the Court of Appeals ruling. Your thoughts on that?
Yes. Ideally, we have the judiciary, and then we have the legislature. Unfortunately, when you come back to our system, okay, the governance structure for some time now, let me say what we have in Ghana here is a bit challenging, because hardly do we find this differentiation as is supposed to be part of the tenet of democracy or any democratic government. So as it were now, it is extremely difficult for us as a country to know whose authorization or whose orders we are supposed to go by. In this instant case, are we to go by the directives of the executive, the legislature, or the judiciary? This is something that is fighting against Ghana as a country for years now. And the issues keep on recurring, and then they're rearing their ugly heads. You see, and that is why for a very long time, majority of Ghanaians will wish that some of the laws that we have within the Constitution and then some other aspect also will be removed or streamlined.
Right.
So that moving forward,
John,
we don't get to see some of this. And now back to the question. The court system is there, all right. So ideally, we were supposed to have obeyed whatever orders the court gave, whether they are good laws or bad laws. Sadly, we have the legislature's involvement also that occasionally will set some precedents. You see, so internally, if you recall, anybody who is making analysis of this, the immediate case that they use in referencing is the Acheampong case. Because on the eve of 7 January, as in 2020? The Acheampong case, there was an issue as to whether he should be sworn in because there was also an order from court. Then leadership at the time, the minority, that was the NDC, had to go into agreement with the majority. And then they all agreed that the Acheampong be made to remain there. Then the swearing-in was done. Thereafter, there was also a consensus that he be made to stay. Until finally the court dealt with, I think it took some years before finally the court dealt with the issue. So I think anybody who wants to begin with any analysis might not necessarily even go into the issue.
I mean, lawyer, I think that, again, the chronology of events in the Acheampong case is very different from this one. But hang on, lawyer, let me ask the question. You've been talking for a while. So what I want you to address now is the fact that because there is a court of appeal, is it a sign of a stay of execution on the High Court's ruling?
Yes, the court issues are outlined to raise a fundamental issue here. That the court is there, the parliament is also there. But fundamentally, we have a challenge. Do you get it? And the challenge is that whenever a court gives a ruling or orders, everybody is supposed to obey, including parliament. But parliament by themselves have also set their own internal rules. Do you get my point? And it's not only the Acheampong case, towards the build-up of the election, they also have some issues referring to the Swedru case. And then it became a very big case for the speaker, as to whether the speaker should obey the orders from the court or internally. Parliament should have their own. And then in the end, they went by Parliament's dictates.
Very well.
They went against what the courts wanted to say. And that's what I'm saying. Anybody who wants to start any analysis legally, we have to put the law there and then try and see whether the issues that we have or the challenge we have between the judiciary and then the legislature will be solved. As it is, when issues came before them, okay, they didn't know which law to use. They didn't know which law to use. So in the end, Parliament had to say Parliament themselves are independent.
Very well.
And even if there are matters before court, internally, they are capable of resolving their issues. So like your reporter said,
Counsel, I'm out of time on this subject. Thank you very much for your time. John Kwesen is a legal practitioner. We've just been looking at that situation in Parliament where the majority and minority sides disagree on whether or not Matthew Nyedam, MP for Pandai constituency should continue to represent his constituents in Parliament despite a Tamale High Court ruling for him not to do so. We'll turn our attention to other matters now because the government of Ghana has issued a strong condemnation of the military takeover in Guinea Bissau, describing the action as unlawful and dangerous assault on democratic governance. A statement issued by the Ministry for Foreign Affairs condemned the coup d'etat carried out by elements of the military in Guinea Bissau, stressing that the act disrupts the electoral process that followed the peaceful presidential and legislative elections held on November 23, 2025. It said Ghana also expresses profound concern over what it called a brazen attempt to subvert the will of the Bissau people, noting that the coup has interrupted the country's democratic trajectory and obstructed the expected announcement of election results scheduled for today, November 27, 2025. So the statement called for the immediate restoration of constitutional order, urging all actors in the country to respect the electoral process. It emphasized that any concerns arising from the elections must be resolved peacefully and through legally recognized mechanisms. Let's connect now with Professor Kwesi Enin, who is the Director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center for a bit more on this story. Prof, did this come to you as a surprise?
I don't like it when you do it. You know.
Hello, Prof. Can you hear me? It would appear we have lost Prof over the telephone. But that's it. Ghana has been commenting and expressing its disgust at the coup d'etat in Guinea Bissau. That's a story we'll continue to keep an eye on and bring you a bit more. But I'll try Prof one more time. Prof, can you hear me now? Professor Ainin? No, hard luck on that one. But that's a story we'll continue to follow and bring you more in subsequent broadcasts. Right now, however, the Bosome Freho District Assembly in the Ashanti region has intensified efforts to combat illegal mining, issuing a firm directive to all small-scale miners to submit their operational licenses for verification and assessment. The move forms part of a broader strategy of the Assembly to curb environmentally destructive mining practices and promote responsible operations. Now, the Assembly is also taking steps to partner small-scale miners, reclaim all degraded lands, and Ibrahim Abubakar will join us a little later for more on that story. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. TV3, I'm Kemini Amanor. Let's get into that Bosome Freho District Assembly story, because in that district, authorities have intensified efforts to combat illegal mining, issuing a firm directive to all small-scale miners to submit the operational licenses for verification and assessment. The move forms part of broader strategy of the Assembly to curb environmentally destructive mining practices and promote responsible operations. The Assembly is also taking steps to partner small-scale miners and reclaim all degraded lands. Ibrahim Abubakar joins us for a bit more on this story. Ibrahim, how widespread is illegal mining in the district? Hello, Ibrahim. You'd have to unmute so we can hear you. Ibrahim, I'll try again. Let's talk about the prevalence of illegal mining in the Bosome Freho district. Well, we'll fix that connection and speak to Ibrahim Abubakar on that story. In the meantime, he's been speaking to some authorities. Let's take a listen.
We want to regulate and monitor the activities they are doing, whether are they in line with the directives given by the President of the Republic of Ghana, so that we are able to monitor the activities. Anyone who defaults the activities he or he is doing, then the Assembly has set aside a task force monitor team that will be moving around to the various communities and the various places where these small-scale miners are doing their activities. Anyone who go contrary against the rules and regulations will be sent to court.
We are ready to reclaim all the places that we have in mind. We'll be going around. Anybody who is doing illegal things, we fish him out and bring him to to face the book of law. We will not be there, and our name will be going out there. So everybody will mention. Even they call us Galamsey. We are not Galamsey people. We have our documents. We are small-scale miners. So far as we have been in training, we want to do professional work.
Let's give Ibrahim Abubakar another shot. Ibrahim, how widespread is illegal mining in the district?
Well, Kemini, so like I said, in the Ashanti region, you cannot talk about illegal mining activities without mentioning Bosome Freho district, because when you even take Tere Galamsey district, Bosome Freho is certainly, you go there, you realize that hundreds of farmlands have been degraded. Several water bodies have also been polluted. So that's why the Assembly, in its renewed fight against Galamsey, has decided to do two approaches. That's combining strict enforcement and also partnership with some of these miners. So they have even currently given the small-scale miners 7-day ultimatum to provide their documentation, because this is aimed at separating them between those who are doing legal activity and illegal activity. So they will partner them and ensure that all the degraded lands have been restored, so that going forward, we will be able to save the environment. So, like I said, they will make sure they enforce the laws, but also ensure that they engage these miners who have already destroyed their land to rather reclaim their land instead of taking resources from government to do all these activities.
I see. And this new strategy, how do they hope to implement it and get the buy-in of the miners?
Well, like I said, so they have started with the engagement, and after that, they will make sure that, like I said, they've given them 7-day ultimatum for all the miners within the district to provide their documentation. They just want to assess it and see where they are located and who has document or not. And from today, they will be monitoring and tracking the activities to ensure they do not destroy water bodies and they do not mine in forest reserve. So they will also be partnering to do the reclamation. That's where they are looking at the sustainability bit, because if they are to do it on their own, funding will be a major challenge for the assembly. And the miners have also buy in, because they believe that if they do not also contribute in preserving these lands, then it will come to a time they will all be lumped up as illegal miners and be asked to stop the activity. So the miners have also decided that yes, we will also support the government in its fight against the galamsey and make sure that whilst we mine, we do so responsibly and protect our water bodies and also forest reserves.
Ibrahim, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Ibrahim Abubakar, Ashanti region correspondent. Let's turn attention to something else. The mother of the 8-year-old girl who died in Wednesday's early morning fire at the Dansiman market says she had briefly stepped out to get food sometime midnight when the incident occurred. Joseph Armstrong Goldalogwe reports that investigations to determine the cause of the fire are ongoing.
Naomi, not her real name, is the mother of the 8-year-old who died in a tragic fire. Naomi told the news team that she had left her daughter for a few minutes to buy food when she received the word that the market was on fire.
I left her to buy food when I received a call that the market is on fire. But when I returned, it was too late.
She explains that she is learning a trade at the market, and because her home in Kaswa is far, she usually sleeps at the market with her child on weekdays, returning home only on weekends.
I come from Kasua, so I sleep at the market and go home on weekends.
Thousands of traders, mostly dressmakers, lost hundreds of Ghana cedis worth of items. Akos is a fashion designer. She says she had just taken delivery of fabrics to sew for her customers ahead of the Christmas season before the fire.
Sewing machines are now very expensive. How am I going to start all over again?
Later in the day, the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Agnes Na Momo-Lati, visited the scene to sympathize with the affected traders. For this trader, losing 3 separate containers filled with customers' materials has left her devastated. The minister assured traders of government commitment to support them to return to business.
Largely, women are those who are affected. And you know, especially where they are single mothers, you know what the market means to them. Some go on daily basis, and that is where they get their daily bread. So we can't keep the place locked up for a very long time. Whilst my sister from Maslock and I work on what can be done for those that are within our means to immediately help, whilst we wait for the full report, we'll do that. And then we are also offering the psychosocial support to those who are badly affected, like one person having 3 stores and then the loss of life.
MC for the area, George Kpaku Aloti, announced that portions of the market will be reopened on Thursday, November 27th, following a meeting of the Municipal Security Council.
About 30% of the market is gone. So yes, the 70 can start business tomorrow.
The CEO of Microfinance and Loan Center, Maslock, assured of government assistance.
We'll carry them along. We'll try and find support for them. If you hear some of them were talking about sewing machines, industrial sewing machines, obviously these are things that Maslock we work on. So we'll come to them halfway.
Wednesday's Dansuma Market fire destroyed several wooden structures and their contents. However, firefighters managed to save adjoining properties from total destruction. Joseph Armstrong, Good Alugbe TV3, Dansoman, Accra.
Now, Paramount Chief of the Esikado traditional area, Nana Kobina Nkesia V, said while many Ghanaians have dismissed the late head of state, General Ignatius Kutu Acheampong's legacy, successive governments have quietly readopted some of his policies, including Operation Feed Yourself. He believes this has since boosted food production and supported local industries across the country.
At the maiden General Ignatius Kutu Acheampong Memorial Lecture, Nana Kobina Nkesia V warned that the culture of kalabule, once used to describe corruption and profiteering, still exists today under the guise of partisan politics. Nana Nkesia says democratic leaders now embrace initiatives introduced by Acheampong, especially Operation Feed Yourself, now termed Feed Ghana.
Who says the military is not a party? Go to Nigeria and study them very well, and you'll understand the military as a very partisan. Forget NDC. They know themselves. So we need to re-examine some of these things for our own self-knowledge, to rediscover our spirit and not blame Kalabule or that for it. We are still doing Kalabule, only that we are not announcing it. When it comes to Acheampong and his Pan-African sentiments and his creation of the African Youth Command and so on, you cannot doubt his patriotism.
Major General Edwin Kwamina Sam, retired, believes soldiers should never get involved in politics.
I happen to believe that soldiers should not get involved in politics. We do and we destroy our organization. But still, the soldiers who have got involved have all done well. And the general has done very well. But it's only now. I think time will forgive him.
Son of the late head of state, Anthony Acheampong, says Ghanaians are beginning to appreciate his late father's vision as a nationalist who wanted the best for his country.
Every leader that has occupied the highest office in Ghana has meant well for the nation, just maybe their style of governance may have changed. So I think it's good we learn from each leader, and my father being the 5th leader of Ghana, what we can learn and what he meant for Ghana to make Ghana a better place.
For some, Acheampong's death was justice served. For others, it remains a tragic chapter in Ghana's political journey. Acheampong ruled as head of state from 1972 until he was deposed in a palace coup on July 5, 1978, by his second-in-command, General F.W.K. Ekufuor. General Acheampong, together with General Akwesi Amankwa Afrifa and General Frederick William Kwesi Ekufuor, alongside 5 senior military officers, were executed by firing squad on June 26, 1979.
Let's bring you some facts and figures now. Now, it's been nearly a month since Edmond Combat, managing director of the Tema oil refinery, announced that the facility would finally resume operations. Ghana's oil refinery has been idle for over 6 years due to technical failures, financial distress, and long periods of neglect. The current administration revived expectations with a planned $25 million investment to restore Tour's capacity to refine crude oil locally. The goal is to reduce Ghana's dependence on imported fuel, ease pressure on foreign exchange reserves, and strengthen energy security. Now, the announcement came with a projected timeline for restarting operations, but that milestone, as we know, has now passed. With the delay becoming more evident, we look at the numbers and why bringing Tour back on stream is so important for the economy. And this is despite plans also to establish a petroleum hub somewhere in the Western region. So let's look at the facts and numbers behind this and answer the question whether or not Tour can rise again. Let's go through that. We know that It was commissioned in 1963, and the only reason you see Dr. Kwame Nkrumah here is because it's just around that time he was leader of this country. It was full government ownership by 1977, became Tema oil refinery in 1991. By 1997, it had expanded to some 45,000 barrels per day. It grew because in 2002, we see that an additional 14,000 barrels per day of processing was added. But the last time it operated was in 2019. And the question is why, right? The question is why? Because for 4 to 6 years, TOR hasn't worked at all. So let's look at why that is the case. But before then, let's look at the total losses it's seen over the years. Check 2020. 2020, we see some 29.7 million losses. And when you look at the trajectory, it's only grown, right? 2021, we see a wide increase, and it only grows bigger because from millions, we're now seeing it in billions. By 2024, right, we see a slight decrease in the losses that TOR has recorded. So we're seeing in 2023, 1.73 billion cedis of loss, but in 2024, it comes down a little bit to $1.54 billion. Despite what appears to be improvement, we still see that TOR's total debt is some $517 million. Why has TOR been inactive? Now, that's a question I was telling you I'd answer. Forced to import crude at high forex cost. Remember that we've been told so many times that TOR cannot refine the oils we get in this country. So then it'll have to import crude from outside the country, lighter version, to be able to use in the country. Deferred maintenance for over a decade. Legacy debts blocking operational finance in 6 years of unaudited accounts. So that's it. That's what it looks like. But why do we need TOR to come back online? And this is the reason, right? Our installed capacity for TOR is about 90,000 to 100,000 BPD. However, the field demand on a daily basis is about 60%, right? What Ghana needs is about 90,000 to 100,000 BPD. What TOR is able to give us is about 60,000 BPD, which means that a deficit, right? There is a deficit of production. And this is what Edmond Combat said when he was appointed, that by the end of October 2025, TOR will be back refining oil so that we can get at least the 60,000 barrels per day that we have lost over the last 4 to 6 years since 2019. Now, the plan was to raise Combat over the phone and interrogate him on where we are with this promise because it's November 27, 2025. Unfortunately, we are unable to reach him. What we'll do now is go across the regions and bring you stories.
This is Key Point.
Welcome back to News Central. The Conference of Principals of Colleges of Education is urging members of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association to reconsider their strike action. CTAG on Monday declared a nationwide indefinite strike over unresolved grievances pertaining to some aspects of their conditions of service. But speaking on the sidelines of the annual conference of PRINCOF, National President Professor Samuel Atintono indicated that the industrial action is taking a huge toll on academic activities and called for a quick resolution.
Classroom or lecture halls infrastructure, because they were previously designed as classrooms like secondary schools. But when you're in a tertiary school, you know that you need large lecture halls. Then, of course, they must also be equipped with the technology to be able to deliver. Most of the colleges are struggling, they don't have this. ICT labs, science labs, they are all very limited. Where they have them, they are not actually in use. Hostel accommodation is a big problem. These are very serious challenges that the colleges are facing.
Meanwhile, still on CTAG, the national president of CTAG, Maxwell Bunu, said the association will meet on Friday to take a decision on the nationwide industrial action. This meeting, he said, will take a closer look at the outcomes of an earlier meeting between CTAG executives and the Minister for Education on Tuesday.
Out of the 5 issues, he had identified 3 of them. That is to pay the all-year round work compensation to the outstanding colleges, to also make sure that the 2023-24 book and research allowance arrears are also paid. Then also the issue of accredited college education, their research topper for 2022 will also be paid. What he could not address immediately has got to do with the 2022-23 arrears, book and research allowance arrears, because there's some disagreements regarding that. Then the last issue regarding our experienced colleagues who have been downgraded. However, the challenge for now is the trust issue. The trust issue, in the sense that in the past it has been promises upon promises that are filled that we have gotten to this stage. We have a constitution that we follow. So the constitution spells out clearly that when you go for such critical meetings, you come back to council, brief them, let them interrogate the issues, analyze it carefully, and then they will come up with a decision.
We can now take you across the regions. Let's turn our attention to Sisiku in the Ofinso North District in the Ashanti region, where the constant deterioration of major and link roads are severely affecting the predominantly farming community. Farmers who depend on these routes to transport their produce to markets are calling for urgent government intervention, warning that the situation is putting their livelihoods and the local economy at risk. Regional correspondent Belinda Tete has joined us with a bit more on this story. Belinda, what else can you tell us?
Right. Just like you rightly mentioned, Sisiku is a predominant farming community. Now, from Akumadan to Sisiku, which initially, if the road was built, it was supposed to be about 10-15 minutes drive from the roadside to the village. But when we were entering the village, it took us not less than 45 minutes to plow the road. And it was simply because the road was in a very terrible situation. And so you would have to take your time and plow the road. So then it tells you how bad the situation is. This road is filled with potholes and holes that are being made by erosion. Simply because whenever it rains, the road keeps washing off. Now the land, it's a clay land, and so whenever it rains, the land becomes so slippery that it becomes very difficult for any vehicle to ply, even a motorbicycle to even ply. Now, I'm speaking to a resident who is also a farmer who tells me that recently, about 2 weeks ago, a resident who was coming from town to the house got involved in an accident. He was on a motor bicycle, and when it got to a point where there's a steep slope, at some point, now coming down, he bumped into one taxi, one tricycle, which was also going up, and then it wasn't able to hold its weight, and right there and then they lost the person who is currently in the morgue. And so these are some of the occurrences. Now, aside on the farming situation, the effect it is having it's constantly giving them post-harvest losses, because if you come to the Bono East region or the Seseku, it's quite closer to us, and so they count as a part of the Bono East region. Now, if you come to the Bono East region, about 30% of perishable goods that come from the region, 30% come from that very village. And so, if about 30% of perishable comes from that, be it pepper, be it tomato, you name it, and whenever it's on market day and it rains, it means they can't go to the market. Their goods will be there. Now, they run 2 market days in a week. And after one market day, they would have to wait about 3 days before another market day comes. And so if you go to the farm to harvest your goods and then it rains, you would have to wait for 3 days before you can send your goods to the market. Now, before these 3 days will come, about 50% of your goods would have perished. So then it is really significantly affecting their lives. Aside the economic activities, it is also affecting healthcare, because Seseku doesn't have its own healthcare. It depends on Akumadan to deliver healthcare. And the roadside to from the village to the roadside is about 45 minutes.
Very well, Belinda.
Now, I spoke to a resident who tells me that they lose pregnant women day in, day out simply because the road is bad. Sometimes by the time...
Belinda, thank you so much for talking to us. We'll leave it here. But let's take a listen to some voices from the Seseku area.
Road network has become a very big challenge to me since I assumed office as a municipal chief executive. But with that notwithstanding, we are putting up measures that we want to, if not all, we work on most of the road network, especially those roads connected where we get most of the food that we send to market.
Because of the nature of the road, if a woman is in labor, you would have to put her on a tricycle or even a motor bicycle, and if care is not taken, you end up losing the woman.
Well, now, government says it is expanding reliable internet broadband to underserved and rural communities as part of its drive toward a more inclusive digital future. At an event to shape the country's internet policy, Communications Minister Sam George said affordable data pricing remains a key priority for the John Mahama government.
Internet connectivity and its resultant penetration remain a key hindrance to the drive for digital transformation for Ghana, while the current administration has launched key programs to facilitate the preparedness of the country. Experts fear a lack of affordability and penetration could prove debilitating for the progress. At the GISPA Internet Conference 2025, the Communication Ministry urged industry players to help achieve stable, affordable internet across the country.
Key priorities include 1, expanding reliable broadband to underserved and rural areas, improving affordability and service quality across networks, streamlining approvals and eliminating barriers to infrastructure deployment, strengthening digital public services through resilient connectivity, and improving cybersecurity structures to protect citizens and institutions.
The minister's speech stressed that bridging the connectivity gap is essential for education, commerce, digital services, and national development. Players within the space government must ensure strong policy direction and sustained investment to secure Ghana's digital future.
We have looked at government's agenda as to how they are going or their expectations as far as the digital economy is concerned. And we think that for us to be able to succeed or to support the government to be able to achieve their drive, it is important that we look at the policy, because the policy affects whatever happens within the industry. And we're also looking at the infrastructure. We need to invest more in the infrastructure to ensure that the infrastructure is able to deliver the expectation that we are all looking for.
There's a long journey ahead for these policies. But once they are the final document, the final policy, we want to make sure that they're not just a document, but there's actually an action plan on how these policies would be implemented.
The future is digital, and for a country with 35 million citizens, a failure to achieve stronger internet connectivity with its resultant innovation, many say could be a missed opportunity.
It's time for us to go now. Thank you so much for your company. We're back here same time tomorrow. I'm Kemini Amanor. Next is the afternoon show. Bye-bye.